This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Let's do this. Another afternoon on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Great to have you with us. Andrew Paterson with you, along with the CTO, Michael Remis. We've got a great show today. We will talk a lot of Jets. Jamie Thomas is going to join us from Jets HQ and, of course, Jets Radio, 680 CJOB. Guys getting ready for a home broadcast tomorrow night to finish up the home portion of the preseason schedule and then finish up the exhibition sched Saturday night, also against the Calgary Flames, before getting going for real next Wednesday, Anaheim, California, against the Ducks in Game 1 of 82. Of course, that game, no Mark Scheifele. We'll get to that and what that may mean for the opening day roster, as well as the cap concerns. Paul Maurice speaking just in the last few minutes today. So we'll get to that coming up with Jamie Thomas a little bit later on the program. And before that, the return of one Kevin O. And of course, we had Kevin on last year, right around the time we started this, because Kevin, in the midst of the chaos that was left us on Pembina Highway, actually was popping in for some spot duty for the Winnipeg Ice, doing the broadcast for them from Winnipeg. Thank God fans are back at the Ice Cave and everywhere right now. Ice had an amazing start to the season, crushing the Brandon Wheat Kings by a total, I believe, of 17-3 in the home and home series. So Kevin's going to come on. We'll get his thoughts on the big stories of the day with the Bombers and the Jets, of course, as well as a huge weekend for the Winnipeg Ice. So Kevin O coming up in a few minutes. It should be great. Jamie Thomas a little later on, and a lot to get to. Right off the bat, we have to thank the people that make this show happen, and that's our great family of sponsors, including our newest sponsor, Culligan Water, over at 1200 Sargent Avenue, Manitoba Battery, Royal Sports, Princess Auto, Little Brown Jug Brewing, Boston Pizza, Not AutoCorp, Canadian Club, and the Nick and Nicky DQ Group, and of course, our betting partner over at Coolbet Canada. Speaking of Coolbet, just finished the new lock shop with Dustin Nielsen a few minutes ago. If you haven't seen that, check my Twitter at Hustlerama. You can watch the video, or if you're listening on the podcast, pop in the lock shop and make sure you subscribe. We got new episodes Tuesday and either Thursday or Friday. Today we hit the weekend of the Canadian Football League, the Thursday nighter, the MLB wildcard games, a few NHL futures. Thursday evening show will be back all over the NFL. And if I do say myself, it's a little hot right now. We went 5-0 against the spread in the Circa contest, so the boys are happy about that. And now 9-3 against the spread on the best bets so far. So can't guarantee anything going forward, but it has paid to listen to the show so far through 4 weeks of the NFL schedule. All right, let's get to it. Michael Remis joins me now from WSTHQ. Remo, what is going on? How are you?
Hustler, feeling great here on a Tuesday, counting down. We are that much closer to Jet season, but also great Bomber game coming up. And if you're looking for some early hockey content, Winnipeg Ice hosting Connor Bedard and the Regina Pats tomorrow here at, the Ice Den, the Ice Cave, Wayne Fleming
Ice
Arena.
Cave. The Ice Cave,
whatever you want.
Fleming Arena,
the hockey,
Bell, University of Manitoba.
Yeah, the hockey arena at University of Manitoba, whatever name you want to call it. So there is some buzz. I think one of my friends texted me, "Hey, Connor Bedard is going to be here tomorrow. Maybe we should check that out." I was like, "That is interesting." We're already talking about him. 2023 eligible for the draft. So
he was the story of the year. I mean, Peyton Krebs was the player of the year, but it was Connor Bedard that we were all talking about with his debut in the bubble last season. And he did play here in an exhibition game earlier that I know a lot of people went out and saw. He's going to be must-see. And this kid, I guess things can change, but the projected number 1 overall pick, a potentially franchise-changing player in the National Hockey League if he continues to grow at the rate that he has so far, because he is an absolute phenom. Be a big test for the Ice, so we'll get to that a little later on. Hey, I got to give a shout-out to Swanson in China, who has tuned in from Colombia. What's going on, Swanson? Great to have you. We need to grow those Colombian numbers. So tell your friends about Winnipeg Sports Talk. Great to have you here. And of course, everyone else that's here. People are fired up for KO. Love it. Love it. So I'm actually pumped to talk to KO. He's such a great dude and can hit on all the topics we love to chop up here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. So we'll do that in just a few minutes with Kevin. But Remo, pretty hard not to talk about the big story when it comes to Winnipeg sports today. And it's not anything from Jets practice. It's kind of something from Bomber practice. The absence of Kenny Lawler, who was apologizing to his teammates first. We'll speak to the media later today after the team announced late last night that Kenny Lawler is suspended for Friday's game, coming off a 200-yard game in the Bombers' beatdown of BC because he was arrested for a DUI. And as I said yesterday, this is, so disappointing to have happen when everything is going so well for the football team, and 100% avoidable. In 2021, in a city like this, and for anyone, it's inexcusable. But, for a guy with the means to, to be able to get a cab, I believe TapCar is an official sponsor of the Bombers. That service is available, or a friend. And I know Bomber fans have been saying, hey, we would drive these guys anywhere. I don't really think that's the solution for it. But there is some personal responsibility in it. From all accounts, I haven't heard this, and we will, if we get the audio later on, we'll play it for you here. Very remorseful. And I think Kenny may, have some issues with alcohol that he mentioned, with the football team. But the bottom line is, it doesn't matter what your line of work is. Drinking and driving is incredibly dangerous, both to yourself and others. And, he's going to have to pay the price for it. And, it's funny that we're talking about this today. And I had to, it was ironic that this news came out last night, because I would say for about half of the show yesterday, I certainly was, and I knew you were in on it, and everyone in the chat was talking about just how great this Bomber team is, how nobody can stop them. And I believe someone said the only thing that can stop the Bombers is the Bombers themselves. And this is the sort of thing that, can really be problematic for a football team. But knowing Mike O'Shea, knowing the culture that he's created, Kenny Lawler's going to have to take his medicine, pay the price for it, both with the football team as well as legally. And it's going to be something it's going to take a long time to get over for him. But for a football team, it's going to be treated, I'm sure, like an injury. Next man up. And of course, that next man is Naaman Roosevelt, who's been sitting biding his time on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers practice roster, waiting to get an opportunity to play in a game since he was signed. And Lawler and the rest of the receivers have been so good and so successful that, it was pretty hard to justify a change. Well, pretty easy to justify a change after the news we got last night from the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Yeah, Huss, you DM me the release that the Bombers put out there yesterday. And yeah, when I saw it, my first reaction was I was very disappointed to see that. There's as you said, there's no reason anyone should be drunk driving in 2021. It's easier than ever to pick up your phone. As you said, TapCar is a sponsor of the Bombers. Use TapCar, use one of the other apps, call someone. We all know that you have a couple of drinks, you don't operate a car. What was a positive, we look at the Bombers' statement here, that it seemed like Kenny Lawler, informed, this is according to the statement, he informed the team of his arrest for operating a motor vehicle while impaired early this morning. Upon further investigation, the club has suspended him for Friday's game and reported the incident to the league office. We take it very seriously and have spoken at length with Kenny throughout the day. Kenny recognized the seriousness of the situation, and this type of behavior is unacceptable and inexcusable. He has agreed to seek assistance as it relates to alcohol abuse and has cooperated fully with police. So I think the Bombers, putting out a statement and they're taking the appropriate steps. And I do think it's fair to suspend him here for Friday's game, and then we'll see what happens. But we were talking yesterday, okay, Naaman Roosevelt, he's, as far as what it means for the football team, Naaman Roosevelt, what does this guy got to do to get into a game? We said, the Bombers receivers are all rolling, no reason to make a change. Something unfortunate has happened, and thankfully no one was hurt from it. But we'll get a chance, most likely, to see what Naaman Roosevelt brings to the Bombers, and then we'll go forward. But I guess well done here by the Bombers, and I hope Kenny Lawler takes it seriously and gets the help that he needs and can come back from this.
Yeah, and again, I don't know. How much credit the Bombers deserve right now. They were faced with the situation, and they've suspended him. I think that goes without saying that he wasn't going to be able to play in the game this weekend. But they got out in front of it, and they're doing their best to handle it. Though I do think that this organization, with the people in charge of the football team and Kyle Walters and basically Mike O'Shea, the way he runs it, I think they'll be there for their teammate. I think that they will give him the opportunity to make amends within the locker room. I think he'll play again. This is not something, if this happens in another line of work, I guess if you're a bus driver or a taxi driver, if you're driving for a living, it would, significantly impact your ability to earn a living. But it's not that, you can't do anything in society after this while you're waiting to pay your price. But there is a price to be paid. He won't be paid this weekend. He will be suspended. I'm not sure whether there'll be anything additional coming from the league. I guess that's possible. And if that's the case, he'll have to, suck it up and handle it. But I do believe that there'll be an opportunity for him to come back. And what I personally hope, because I think we all know that, people that have been touched by problems with alcohol and terrible decisions, whether it, involves this particular DUI, drinking and driving, or other things in their lives, it's not the end. And Kenny Lawler is just too talented a young man and has too much going for him, both on the field and off the field with the, a young child, to have these sort of things prevent him from being the guy that he can be. So I just hope that he gets the help that he needs and has apparently reached out for. I certainly think that the organization, his teammates, the coaching staff will be there for him. And you hope that, first things first, thank God no one was hurt. That's the first thing when I hear anything like this, because these stories can be way worse. And I got to tell you, if people were hurt, then the conversation probably changes quite a bit. It's a terrible, terrible mistake. It's something that, as I said, there's going to be repercussions for. But I don't think it's going to, by any means, mean the end of Kenny Lawler. And Remo, it's just, it's a cautionary tale, I think, for everyone of how high you can be and then how low you can go so quickly afterwards. Because here we were yesterday talking about one of the great receiving performances in recent Bomber history, one of the best offensive performances by the team, top to bottom. Zach Caleros, what he's doing. And Kenny Lawler's been a big part of that. Bomber receivers were not even on the radar last year for receiving yards in the league, and there's Kenny Lawler at the top of the league right now. So, in this, and especially in this world with social media and whatnot, people will build you up, but they can tear you down pretty quickly. And I think it's going to be up to him to, to handle this like a man, to take this head on. It sounds like he's doing that. And you hope that he will be better off for it. But the bottom line for me is thank God no one was hurt. And the organization will move on without Kenny Lawler for the time being. And when he comes back, he'll probably have a spot in the lineup at some point, but he'll have to prove off the field first that he's ready to go and be a member of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers as they chase a championship.
Yeah, the Bombers, hold members of their organization to a high standard, and he did not, act appropriately for sure there. You talk about the Bombers and their offense. CFL announced their Players of the Week. Zach Caleros, who had the game, I don't want to say of his career. He had one other time where he threw for more yards, but he was one of the Players of the Week, along with two members of the Ottawa Red Blacks, which I never thought I would say.
They deserve it. They've been through a lot.
Caleb Jones and Devontae Dedmon, who's had an amazing season, returning kicks and punts. I'd like to see the Red Blacks. I know fantasy players want to see the Red Blacks use him in a more offensive role, dynamic player. But shout out to Zach. You talk about MOP. Who's going to be MOP? I think Collaros probably leading candidate for MOP. I don't know. I was kind of skeptical about him, Huss. But that was a game on Friday that they needed to win. They needed to prove that they were the best team that they could beat. They already proved against Saskatchewan twice. BC was knocking on the door. And it was an unbelievable performance through the air, throwing for 417 yards. So congratulations to Zach on being named the CFL's player, one of the 3 players of the week there.
Yeah, no doubt that Collaros was going to be the star of the week after what he did. And, Kenny Lawler would have ironically been in conversation as well for that with the 200-yard game. But the headlines about Kenny Lawler right now have nothing to do with 200 yards against the British Columbia Lions and more to do with a very, very bad mistake that it's going to hang around him for a while and cost him a spot in the Bomber lineup on the weekend. But of course, as we mentioned, with adversity and issues on one side, opportunity for others. And we do expect Naaman Roosevelt to get his first start in blue and gold at home against the Elks. Talk about all this, Jets, and of course, the Winnipeg Ice after that ridiculous start to the season, sweeping the Brandon Wheat Kings in just a couple minutes. I mentioned off the top, Culligan Water is now on board. Many people have told me, Huss, you got to cut down on the Diet Pepsi. Well, hydrating. I've got a nice little Ryder Cup water bottle that I brought back. Now there's quite a bit. Kevin O, Kenny Weeb, these are the guys I look up to in life. They're always drinking water. And our friends at Culligan are here to help us out. Now, they, of course, help you fill your bottles. But they've been the water leaders in Winnipeg for 65 years. And of course, they're family owned. It's great to have the Stewart family and everyone at Culligan on board with us. You can find them at 1200 Sargent. You can give them a call at 694-5180. But they got water softeners and filters, whole home systems, drinking water systems, bottled water coolers, and bottle-free coolers, as well as water delivery services everywhere in the city of Winnipeg. And if you're thinking about maybe water needs for your business, give them a call. They've both got commercial and industrial water products and solutions. You can find out everything online at drinkculligan.com or give them a call at 694-5180. See him at 1200 Sargent and get hydrated with the Culligan man over at Culligan Water. Of course, our friends at Manitoba Battery I realize Donnie and the guys are probably sitting around going, yeah, it's great that we're doing a lot of fall specials on the maintainers for boats and your summer car. Right now, $20, by the way, a great deal. Good time to do it. So that sucker's good to go with one turn when you get out of the winter and ready to fire it up. But the winter is, despite the fact that it's going to be 28 degrees on the way, and that means battery issues. Don't be the guy that waits till it's minus 35 to realize that you're screwed. Be proactive, and you don't even need to leave your house. You get the best price on a battery, the same one that you would get at a Costco or one of the big box stores, for the best price delivered to your home with Manitoba Battery. Talk to them, 1026 Logan if you're in the neighborhood. Give them a call at 783-8787 or go to manitobabattery.com. And of course, they're the battery experts for everything automotive, industrial, farm, power sports, Medi-Chair batteries, Sea-Doos, sleds coming up. Donnie and the guys have got you covered, manitobabattery.com. And I've been seeing a lot of blue and gold and a lot of Jets gear out. People are fired up about the local teams. Jets, of course, have a number of new players. You can pop down to Royal Sports and get your new Nate Schmidt jersey or a Brendan Dillon 5 right now. Or maybe just some gear to wear to the games. Of course, the next game tomorrow night, Bomber game on Friday. If you're needing anything when it comes to merchandise, Royal Sports has always been the kings of that. But for over 35 years, they have been the hockey superstore. And as you get ready to get back on the ice this year, or a young one in the family, One Stop will take care of everything you need. And they've got the hockey experts working to help you out and make those right decisions. Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. And you can also follow them online or over at Instagram at Royal Sports Pembina. All right, let's talk some pucks. The Ice had an amazing start to the weekend. The Bombers are on top of the CFL, though dealing with some stuff off the ice. And of course, we've got an exciting Jet season coming up. Who better to chop up all that with than our good friend Kevin Olszewski, who is now not only the broadcast host for the Winnipeg Ice, but also doing a little color with our old pal Munzie. KO, what's good? Great to have you back on the program.
Back in the rink, Huss. If I'm excited about anything, it's that. Notice my dog Iggy in the way back. I don't know if you can see him on your screen.
Hi, Iggy.
But he jumped in here. He's so fired up for it. Yeah, the color commentary, it's hard to keep up with Munzie, right? He's calling a game that really isn't happening. You can't really see it. It's like, Munzie, where are you going with this? All jokes aside, of course. We had a lot of fun on the weekend. It was, 17 goals. I was still writing them down. Like, my hand was sore. I couldn't keep up writing down the scoring summary and trying to figure out and host the post-game show and say, well, this kid had these you couldn't keep up with goals and assists. It was ridiculous. Brandon was a little shorthanded. So we're very excited on behalf of the Winnipeg Ice. Great start. You love crushing your rival's soul on opening weekend. Nothing feels better than filling the nets on them. But well aware that Ridley Gregg, soon to be suspended in the NHL, is going to return from Ottawa. He's on his way back. And Brett Hyland, they've got a number of injuries too. So they only had 3 lines. They only had 6D that they had available to them. So they were pretty shorthanded, and the Ice took full advantage. And I'm guessing that Manitoba rivalry, the Battle of Manitoba, will be very tight down the stretch come the end of the season, as it normally is, which makes it fun for us. Right?
Yeah, well, I mean, the points all count, so it's a great start for the Ice. But, it is important to mention some of those circumstances that went in. But from the same time, I don't see Matt Savoy on the game sheet. That's going to be, a guy that is what is it? I think Bob McKenzie had him ranked 7th in the preseason scouting. So he'll be a player that people will really be looking at. But if we're going to talk about the Ice weekend, I think we got to talk about Owen Paterson, player of the week in the WHL. 6 points, 3-3 in the first 2 games. It seems like every time we take a look at a new version of the Ice, there's other players that have sort of graduated into leadership roles. And let's face it, there's a big hole with this club with Peyton Krebs, last year's WHL Player of the Year, and really the guy that had been the leader of this club since they came from Kootenay, no longer on the squad.
Incredible depth on this team, and you're going to see it. You saw it over these 2 games that every line was contributing, right? It wasn't just one line driving the bus. But we talked about it a ton last year, Huss. It's about legacy, right? Peyton Krebs left a legacy with the Winnipeg Ice. You want a successful organization, you need to build a winning culture. You need to build it around kids, young men that play the game like pros, that are going to go on to the pros and have great careers and do great things. Peyton Krebs was that guy, but he left. There is, all kinds of remnants of his leadership lurking around that room. And Owen Paterson is a very good player in his own right. He's 6'3", right? He's a big-bodied guy. Played with Krebs, played with Connor McLennan, and he's back with him now. But those guys get to step up and now maybe get the due that they were deserved maybe before. He wasn't just riding coattails with Peyton Krebs, although we learned a lot from him. All the credit to those guys who are remaining, because you put Bob McKenzie's rankings out, as you said, Matt Savoy at 7, Connor Geekie at 5. All the scouts are coming to see all these guys, right? What about the guys that were here last year that were ripping it up, and for the last couple of years that maybe underwhelmingly went under the radar a little bit? Jacob Smallwood's another guy, right? Another veteran forward that they've got that are very important members of that team and members of that dressing room. More importantly, you're talking about junior hockey players, right? So you got, Connor Geekie, 16, 17 years old, comes in. There's no questioning his skill level, right? And there's no questioning, I don't think, in a lot of ways, he's going to be a great NHLer. He's got the huge frame. He's got soft hands. He does it all. He's engaged. But there's those little tricks to the trade that you got to learn along the way. You learn those from the other players. You learn those from the vets that you're around. And those players, and Peyton Krebs, in hindsight, is going to help a guy like Connor Geekie moving forward. And Matthew Savoy, I know there's lots of people, and this is the question I get. What, he only had 2? He had 2 apples in the 10-2 win over Brandon on Friday, and nothing on Saturday night in front of the home crowd. Well, Peterson had 4 points, and he's playing on his line. And McLennan, it was just one of those things where he cracked 3 posts on the weekend, crossbar, 2 posts. He's right there. The numbers aren't there yet. Be a little bit patient about him coming back and finding some chemistry with McLennan and Paterson. It's there, and the points are going to come all in good time. So no issues with his game, how he's playing, where he's at. It's going to be a real fun year in the Ice Cave.
You know, I did misspeak on Savoy. It's just that I had to go so far down the scoring to get to a guy that had 2 points in 2 games. It just speaks to how nuts that was. But, you know, he's an interesting player. I mean, he was the one that, you know, applied for the exceptional player status as a 15-year-old. Wasn't with the team last year, played some in the USHL.
Got more games in, Huss. That's what that was about, right?
Totally. The ability to play
in the Dub Hub, and they didn't know if they were going to pull it off or how it was going to go. Had the offer to go to the USHL and play, you know, whatever it was, 50 games or 45 games, whatever it was, and get that valuable experience. He felt that was best for his development, you know, and so you let the kid go, right? It was a strange time. It was a crazy year. So happy he came back. The Winnipeg Ice are obviously very happy that he came back, but he came back because he can also see that this is going to be a hell of a hockey team. And I mean, you've got, you know, not just Western Hockey League aspirations, you've got Memorial Cup aspirations, and hopefully that all plays out and we can get everything in. I mean, we had fans in the Ice Cave on Saturday night. People are double vaxxed, all the good stuff of us getting back to normal. I think he sees this as a huge opportunity. And, you know, the third line for the Winnipeg Ice, Skylar Bruce has 3 goals. Like, it's ridiculous. And he's slotting in with Zach Benson, who's another 16-year-old kid who's ridiculous. They have a 17-year-old unproven goaltender between the pipes this weekend. They got Gage Alexander back today from Anaheim camp. That's, you know, 6'7" goaltender who's drafted. But Daniel Hauser was outstanding, stopped 2 penalty shots in the same game on Friday night. So you win the game 10-2, right? But at the time, in the first period, it's Nolan Ritchie, it's Nate Danielson, 2 best skilled forwards in Brandon's lineup. He faces and stares down and stops 2 penalty shots in a 2-1 hockey game on Friday night at Westoba Place in Brandon. Things could have gone way different if he doesn't make those saves. So all the credit to the offense, all the credit to how good this team has been. But the little goaltender that could got it done as well. And that'll be underplayed when you see the final score of those games.
Now, you laid it up pretty well. I mean, this Ice team is stacked, and maybe we'll get to this in a minute. But when we talk about the expectations for the Jets this year, the talent on the Moose that hasn't been there in a long time, and the talent on the Ice, you could make an argument that this might be, for a hockey fan, one of the best years ever to be able to go out and attend games with just how good all of the teams could be going forward. But the great thing about the WHL is you're not only seeing the home team, you're seeing the visitors come in. And you know where I'm going with this one.
Who's here on Wednesday?
Yeah, Connor Bedard coming in tomorrow night. Now, I know he was here for the in the exhibition season. Not sure whether you caught that game, but
sure did.
Fill us in on what you've seen. And we've seen a lot of tape. I know some of the folks in the chat went to that game and got a chance to see firsthand. He is in a lot of ways the talk of the league right now, and I'm sure that'll get the Ice that much more up to play the Regina Pats. But just your views on what people will see when they come to see this 16-year-old phenom at the Ice Cave.
Well, he's not one of those guys that just kind of piles up points quietly. He does everything in spectacular form, right? It's very Connor McDavid-ish. Not the speed, right? McDavid kills you with speed, and then he's got the hands that he can do it all. You understand how exceptional of a player he is. Bedard's kind of does everything well, like more, you know, talk about Shane Wright, who had the exceptional status, and he's very much a Sidney Crosby clone, and that's what he wants to be, the two-way player. Bedard is probably right now in stature a little closer to that, but what he is a ridiculously accurate shooter. He's got a real hard shot for a kid his age, obviously. But he just sees the ice and he commands it. And he makes something out of nothing, like McDavid, right? Where you're just like, oh, he's just, you didn't really notice him. He's along the wall. And all of a sudden he's got the puck and boom, it's in the back of your net. And you're like, how the hell did that happen, right? Like, what did this kid do? And he rips a shot, whether it's late in a shift. He's setting up his line mates. He makes the players around him better. And Regina probably, you know, not the deepest team. Like when you compare lineups between the Ice and the Regina Pats right now, my word, the Ice have, you know, 10 times the depth of scoring glut, but that's the equalizing force, how good Bedard is. And Connor Geekie is a great player. And Zach Benson is a great young player as well. And, you know, I think they were within 6 to 8 points of him in the bubble, and everybody went off on how great Bedard was because he was ripping it up, and only Peyton Krebs could hold him off for the scoring race, and he left for the U18s as well, right? So Connor Bedard missed the last couple games of that. He's an incredibly electric, exciting player. He kills penalties. He's on the power play. Like, they're using him in every situation. They're getting the most out of this kid because he's not going to be in the dub for long. The first opportunity, we know, and he's here for an extra year. So my recommendation to everybody has been, like, savor it, because you're not going to, I think they play 8 times this year. So you got 4 times at the Ice Cave. Check it out, because next time he's going to be, he'll be late at an NHL camp. He'll be at a prospects game. He'll be playing with Hockey Canada, whatever the situation. You never know when players suffer minor injuries, that kind of stuff. Get your eyes on this kid while you still can, because you'll be paying big bucks to see him play against the Jets in a couple years' time.
Hey, Remo, actually, I'm just thinking about this. I just saw Miller Time, 1980 just dropped in the chat. Going tomorrow night with the fam. Looking forward to it. Should be a great game. Remo, text Muncie. See if he wants to do a pair of tickets. We could do something at the end of the show or a little bit later on to get a couple of our listeners into the game. But just before we move on from the ice, we had Connor McLennan on, I think it was last week. He had just come back from Flyers camp. Great interview, really well-spoken young man, exciting future ahead for him. He was talking about the camp. How many ice right now do you think are on the radar for potentially maybe being a part of Team Canada at Christmas time, KO?
Oh, see, I didn't even put that into context. There's going to be a whack of like Geekie, Savoy. Hey, Owen Paterson is going to be an interesting case, right? One of those 19-year-olds in junior hockey that, he's 6'3", he's a big body, he finishes, he does everything really well. Is he at that level by reputation? Probably not. But if he's scoring like he has, right, and he's playing with Matt Savoy, maybe those players get kind of that late invite. Carson Lambos is obviously going to be if he's not a lock, I'd be shocked. He had quietly, I say quietly, he was the first star on Saturday night. And he had 3 points. But you could see him just kind of start to come into his own and lead things from the back end. They're going to have, maybe Christmas time they're a little shorthanded, and they go through what Brandon went through this opening weekend, right? So goes around, comes around in junior hockey. When you put it that way, Huss. But what it is, it's a good thing, right? You can get that experience if you can go and rip it up in Edmonton and Red Deer and hopefully have fans in the stands and get that whole experience. Man, it would be a heck of a lot of fun. But Geekie's a fun player to watch. He's big. He's got that little, you can tell that, his brother plays in the show, right? And bounced around and with Carolina, now with Seattle Kraken in Morgan, that he comes from a hockey family and athletes in the family, so nothing phases him, right? He got in a dust up on Friday night, didn't back down from that, went at it with Logan Hammett of the Wheat Kings, scored a minute into the home opener, like just timely goals. And he's that big body guy that when he starts moving, he takes one stride to most guys in the league's 3, right? So you're like, oh, he's not going that fast, and he just blew your doors off. How did Geekie get in behind coverage, right? And then he's got the silky smooth mitts to lift it over top. So I don't know if he would be a lock, but he's definitely going to get a look at an underager in a U19 tournament. He's only 17. He's going to have to, put up some ridiculous numbers, but he's done it so far. I know we're only a couple of games in, but they'll be on the radar at the very least, Huss.
Absolutely. Well, exciting things happening out at the Ice Cave tomorrow night. Connor Bedard and the Regina Pats coming to town. Of course, you can find out more information at winnipegice.ca on tickets and whatnot. Get out there. Great opportunity to see a young man that we'll probably be talking about for years in hockey circles right here in his 16-year-old year. And yeah, we will do a pair of tickets a little bit later on, so make sure you just stick around for that.
Thanks, Uncle Munzie.
Yeah, Uncle Munsie's got the taking care of us. So it was great. We had some fun, and people were really fired up to go to the game. Got some great feedback from the people that did win the seats last week on Monday's show. So I certainly think people should put that on their to-do list this season if you haven't gone out and seen the ice so far. Kev, I want to ask you about the Jets, but first off, this should be talking about this incredible Bomber team that is doing things we haven't seen in so long. It's somewhat ironic after how we gushed about everything, justifiably so, yesterday on the program, that here we are talking about Kenny Lawler, not because he had, a career game against the BC Lions, but because he got arrested for a DUI.
You fired out the text, Huss, to, hey, Kevin O, can you come on? Oh, we need our token idiot. Let's get someone who's got bad decision-making skills. He's our expert in that area. Let's bring him on and ask him about doing stupid things, right? And I was like, I can see the connection, Huss. I smell what you're cooking.
Absolutely not. But, incredibly disappointing, I guess, from everyone's perspective. I mean, no excuses for it, something that's 100% avoidable. And, and really puts, he's put himself in a tough situation in that you've got a veteran receiver like Naaman Roosevelt that's been sitting there waiting for an opportunity. And Kenny Lawler just opened up the door and gave someone else an opportunity. He's not going to be in the lineup. I mean, what do you make of the situation? And, how I do have confidence that Mike O'Shea is all business, as will everybody else on that team being going forward. But certainly it's something that the team hates to be dealing with right now, when we should be talking about a team that could be on the verge of doing something incredibly special.
Well, and in this day and age, and we know that, you want your athletes to be role models, and we speak out, and the organizations pride themselves in, being good, upstanding members of the community. When stuff like this happens, there's no hiding it. There's no disguising it. Maybe back in the 80s, this would have been, buried in a headline or in a byline, or it wouldn't be mentioned at all,
or covered up,
right? Yeah, like it just, you wouldn't hear about it, right? That's not the case now. So you face it head on, as the Blue Bombers are going to try to do. And now, what's done is done. You apologize. It's stupid. It's a huge problem, obviously, for the team, but now they try to manage it. Right now, it becomes a PR situation like everything else. And, he's a valuable member of the team. So this is not a, backup to the backup to the backup, or heaven forbid a kicker in this town, the way things have gone since Justin Medlock pulled up. All due respect to Ali Mutada, I think, who was pretty good over the weekend in BC. The team is going to be torn on this, right? They take a PR hit. You don't want to look like you're supporting or encouraging this type of activity. You have to levy some type of punishment. They've done that. They've tried to, get in front of it, as they say, and suspend him and treat it seriously, which they have. So that is a positive. The reality is, in this day and age, that's not enough for most people, right? You are canceled for far less than this. We bring you to this community to play football and to thrill us, but there's a lot of other guys who can do that as well. And as good as you are, you break the law when you come up here. And for some people, that's a deal breaker, right? My kid watches this. My kid's got a jersey, whatever. This is what this guy did. I don't want to be associated with that. I don't want my team to put that guy back out on the field. He should be cut. He should be sent home. That should be the end of it. Where do I fall on that scale? People make mistakes. People do dumb things. People pay their penance as they certainly should. And their punishment, should you be fired off, into the sun for every poor judgment and every bad thing that you do. I don't live like that, or wouldn't want to be treated like that. At the same time, like the team, you're torn, right? Dude messed up. He messed up hugely. Is this going to derail this team? I don't think so, because I know the leadership with that team.
Michael O'Shea won't let it.
You mentioned the coach, but the other players in there, and if it results in him getting cut, if it results in him coming back in and, becoming, as how this goes, Haas, right? You get treatment if treatment is necessary, and you become a spokesperson and a role model, and you teach kids, listen, I thought I was on top of the world. I was the best player in the CFL. I thought I was unstoppable.
He literally was on top of the world coming out of that game on Friday night.
So now your message has to be, and you know what, I screwed up, and this is how I dealt with it, right? So all you can do once you make that mistake is prove what kind of person you are by how you deal with it. Are you suspended for 2 games? Does the league suspend him? there's lots of clauses in player contracts about, upstanding members of the community and all that kind of stuff. But how you deal with it, how you face it, how you handle it is a big part of that. And, you're halfway through the season or just over halfway. So the reality is you have time to deal with it. And you have time to see if you can sort things out. It's frustrating, right? Because it's just like, seriously, like it's just so avoidable.
Just think about the guys in the front office when they got the call about this. Like, you have got to be kidding me. And
exactly.
You know what? Hey, it's professional football. It's a mercenary sport. The contracts aren't guaranteed. I mean, you kind of said it. I mean, if this is a backup or a guy on the practice roster, this is probably dealt with differently, as in beat it. Kenny Lawler's going to have an opportunity to make amends, and he'll have an opportunity to get back up at the lineup at some point, whenever that is. And it'll be up to him to, both on the field and off the field, do the right things and, make a point that he's a valuable member of the team and be a valuable member of the community after a really, really tough mistake.
What goes on, like, on the field, Huss, right? Can you imagine what the other players are going to be like? You're that dumb? Like, you think you're getting chirped?
Oh,
and you get in a guy's head, and all of a sudden you lose that confidence. You get rattled. It's all blown up, and all of a sudden you're not the same guy that you were, because you've given everybody this. It's free shots, right? And that's not good for Kenny Lawler as an individual, let alone everything else that he's going to have to deal with. He's distracted. You've got, police knocking on your door, bringing you home, or whatever the case is. And you start worrying about, have I screwed up my whole life, my whole livelihood by this one, hopefully one dumb mistake that will never happen again. That gets into a guy's head. And all of a sudden, even if he does come back, maybe he's not the same player, right? Maybe you don't want him.
Yeah, we certainly hope that that's not the case.
No, I don't.
But aside from Lawler, I mean, you've covered sports in this town for a long time. With what was announced last night, notwithstanding the body of work through 8 games, I mean, where do you put this Bomber team up against? How good are they historically? When was the last time that you can remember a team that we could compare to the 2021 version of the Blue and Gold?
Well, I know 2011 was the last time they were 7-1, right? And that was a pretty darn good team. We know how it ended, and we're sad about that. But it all comes back to the defense, right? It used to be, well, it's all defense, right? And in some ways,
it was all defense in 2011.
Yeah, but in some ways, it's still, except you had Kari Jones and Milt Stegall. So yeah, sure it was, right?
No, 2001.
Oh, 2011.
2011, they literally dragged that offense.
Yes.
From the 7-1 start. That was the swag, the Swaggerville crew.
Without a doubt. But that's not the case with this team, right?
Not at all.
As deep in every position, and maybe that's going to get tested now, and every team has to go through adversity, and theirs is going to come off the field because it's not coming on the field this time. No, it's ridiculous how deep they are. And, I mentioned the kicking. That's the only... you're really picking nits, right? When you get to that point, and you're like, well, yeah, this happens. Like, well, except most games you haven't even needed to rely on it. You're going to, how the CFL works. In a playoff game, you need to control both field position and be able to kick that game-winning field goal. But they've got time to work through that. But just absolutely dominant, and it's been dare I say, Huss, that it's almost a little boring because how good they are. Like, so I just expect them to, there's no danger in the game, and the scores haven't been ridiculously lopsided, right? And now you see Zach Glarus's numbers last week, and where he's getting up to, and he's just building up to that, like an 8-1 as a starter here. So, but as we all know, it is the CFL. You're one hit away, right, from your quarterback, and is so key in this game, and clearly he's a great leader, and you hope that you can kind of handle any kind of adversity that's thrown your way. But it is Winnipeg. Things never go perfectly here, Huss, does it? I mean, at any given point. So
Exhibit A last night.
Exactly. There's going to be some speed bumps, so buckle up and enjoy the ride. But no, absolutely outstanding. And you know what? It's fun. Like, like I said, for for the Winnipeg Ice to beat Brandon back-to-back and blow them out, to do what they did in the Banjo Bowl and Labor Day against Saskatchewan. Like, just the change in attitude about it is refreshing, and it's awesome. No, but I just now I hope something like this isn't like, are you kidding me? This is what derails them. I don't think it will. We both said that, but real fun team to watch on both sides of the ball, right? Like, that's almost you see what Nick Dembski can do, right? And some of the plays that he's made.
Well, the hometown guys too. I mean, that, like, listen, we've talked before about just how monumental getting Andrew Harris to come here, but having Dembski and then having guys like Adam Bighill essentially put down roots and make their home. I mean, pretty easy team to cheer for, with what happened last night notwithstanding. Hey, before we go, we've talked about the kicking issues of a team that doesn't give up 10 points a game, so it seems not to be an issue. What about the backup goalie situation in Winnipeg with the Winnipeg Jets? Kind of funny, after all of our conversations on the old station and the list of things that people freaked out about, that right now, this is pretty much where we're at right now. Kevin Cheveldayoff had a monster summer. You get Brendan Dillon in here. You obviously get Nate Schmidt as well. 2 more additions to the top 4. You bring everyone back. You sign Pionk. You sign Kopp, albeit to a 1-year deal. Right now, it seems like what are we going to get out of Pierre-Luc Dubois this year? And is Eric Comrie good enough to hold it down for the backup job? What am I missing here, Kevin? Where are you at on the Jets going into next Wednesday?
Those are 100% the storylines. And with all due respect to Eric Comrie in the backup goaltending position, Pierre-Luc Dubois to me is a bigger storyline, because if he's good, I don't think any of this matters. I think they can steamroll the lesser lights of the league with him in the net. Is he going to win a ton of games? Probably not. But as long as the team feels confident they can play in front of him and know what it is. We know what Connor Hellebuck's like, right? He would play every single stinking game if you could give him the opportunity to. He doesn't care. He wants it. I know it's an Olympic year. He's going to lead Team USA, to some, silver medal, if you will, against Team Canada. We'll allow him to do that. So he's going to play a ton. You're going to be nervous every night that he's in. I understand that. But when I look at cap friendly and I look at, how that all plays out and what you have in your lineup, because you're not paying Laurent Brossoit what the Vegas Golden Knights are paying. So measure that drop off, right? It's not Laurent Brossoit versus Eric Comrie and what they have. Now stick an extra $1 million on that and take $1 million out of the lineup elsewhere, be it one defenseman, right? Like, or if it's Dillon or Schmidt, you could only add one of those guys. All of a sudden, do you think the Jets have done enough on the back end? No, you don't. Nobody's talking about them as a contender. They're like, well, they got a little bit better, but there's still, struggles are going to be real unless a kid can step up and do something. So to me, it is what it is. You play in a salary cap world. Connor Hellebuck is going to play 55 to 60 games. You're like, can we get 8 wins? Can we get 6 wins out of Eric Comrie? Will probably be okay. And he's not going to play in the playoffs because Connor Hellebuck's going to be the guy, and that's the horse we're going to ride. So I get it. It's going to make for some white knuckling around the.
He's going to get the opportunity to play. And listen, if it goes terribly for 5 or 6 or 7 games, maybe they go. I had to laugh, Kevin, thinking about the old roundtable days for both you and Rick. I've already seen like 5 comments. Hutch has been put on waivers. The waiver wire is a hot place right now but you know what? This is the time when you can get those guys for nothing, at a cheap spot. And I think if they were in the position where they figured they had to move on that, now would be the time to do it. I don't expect that to happen. And I think Comrie will be given the opportunity to show that he can do the job for them. And, if at a month or 2 months down the road, they have to reevaluate that, Kevin Cheveldayoff will, but I think it's pretty clear that, the coach and the organization are confident that Eric Comrie will be a guy that, they can count on when it goes. And whether or not that's the case, we're going to find out when the NHL regular season gets going.
Exactly, without a doubt. And I mean, when you look at other teams and look at their tandems with how good Connor Hellebuck is, weighted into that equation as well. I still like Winnipeg's goaltending, right? You can be nervous when Eric Comrie's in there, but I'd rather have Mikko Koskinen and Mike Smith, who's 108 years old and giving it away behind the net. No, I wouldn't, even if I had Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. So sign me up for that. I'll ride with these guys like the Jets are. That's the strategy. I'm okay with it because Connor Hellebuck is so darn good.
You know what?
That's some other questionable ideas, but we won't get into that because we'll be in huge trouble.
That ice shirt's looking good on you. Of course, folks, you know where the games are on our old station, 1290 on the AM dial. I wouldn't suggest listening to anything other than the ice broadcast, but Kevin and our old pal Brian Munz are doing a great job. For 7 o'clock games, what time are you guys going on, doing a little bit of pregame beforehand, and fill us in on what you guys have cooking up for tomorrow night with the Pats coming to town?
6:30, half an hour before every puck drop. So the away games that are out west, 8 o'clock starts. There's a few of them coming up on a road trip. It'll be 7:30 that we're on the air. And then we kick around for about 45 minutes after each game till 10 o'clock for home games that are starting at 7 o'clock. So and Munzie and I kind of bounce back and forth. We've had Mike Sawatsky from the Freep jump on for some intermissions. And we've got the game intro, if you haven't heard it, because there's only been 2 games. I won't hold it against you out there. Munzie hooked us up with Jarrett Stoll reading some great lines about being an ICE alumni in the Hall of Fame. So it really sets the stage. It's a lot of fun. And then we also, in addition to the broadcast, doing the Icebreaker podcast show that you can see on the website, winnipegice.ca. So you can find all your links through there. But check us out. It's going to be a fun year. Lots of goals to talk about, man.
Get to the website for both the content and to pick up tickets. Pat's in town tomorrow night. Ice off to a 2-0 start after blowing the doors off the Wheaties in games 1 and 2 of the regular season. KO, great to chat again, my friend. Keep up the great work and say hi to Munzie.
I'll do what I can, Huss.
Right on. There he is, Kevin Olszewski at SportsKevinO on Twitter. And quarterbacking the broadcast along with Munzie over at 1290 for Winnipeg Ice Hockey this year. They're back on the ice tomorrow. All right, we're going to get to the Jets. Jamie Thomas is coming up in just a second. Do want to give a big shout out to our friends at Princess Auto for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Of course, a national company, but roots right here in Winnipeg, family owned, built here in the city of Winnipeg. And they are, the spot that, you'll get the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. You find everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new at Princess Auto. They pride ourselves on helping you create the ideas in your head, whether for your shop, your worksite, or home. Princess Auto knows you love finding the right tools and equipment to build or repair your things yourself. You can go to one of the 2 locations in Winnipeg or shop online 24 hours a day over at princessauto.com. And of course, Princess Auto, proud supporters of curling in Manitoba, sponsors of the Mike McEwen rink. The Jen Jones rink will follow them going into the Olympic trials next week. And we will do weekly curling updates for Princess Auto here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Little Brown Jug's got a lot going on right now. We told you about the new beer they just launched, the Double, and the Black Lager is back as well. The tap room, of course, and the patio rocking all week long. They've got live entertainment coming up on the 8th as well. If you're not already following Little Brown Jug on social media, LBJ Brewing on Twitter at Little Brown Jug. Get all the information, but right now you can get it online at littlebrownjug.ca or pop down and see them live in person at William Avenue. And if you're not going to the arena tomorrow night, you're going to be watching the Winnipeg Jets, and there's no better place to do that than Boston Pizza, a great supporter of the Jets and Moose, place where we did our pregame shows all those years back in the olden days. And Boston Pizza, whether it's for the National Hockey League, NHL, CFL, best lounge to watch games in, all the big screens with the big sound, not to mention those schooners, wings, pizzas, and more. And if you're staying home, hit them up online at bostonpizza.com and order for delivery. All right, Jets one sleep away from getting back on the ice for a home preseason game, the final one before they begin the regular season the following Wednesday. One more trip out to Calgary on Saturday. Let's get the latest on the Jets with Jamie Thomas from Jets Radio 680 CJOB and Jets TV. JT, what's going on? How are you?
Dude, just, waiting for the preseason to end. This is like we got so used to no preseason, little quick training camps. So we got spoiled in that department, but it's been nice to see a lot of new faces. Clearly they made some cuts yesterday, some roster moves that the guys that we pretty much expected weren't going to make the team. But it's nice to see Jeff Malott. I thought looked pretty good in the games he got in. Very impressed with what he did over the little stint here. And Mikhail Burden, finally get to see him play a game with the Jets too. So there is some service and some use for preseason, but man, I'm ready to get to Anaheim and start doing this for real.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Let's get to practice. The team was off yesterday, of course, couple games back to back on the weekend in Edmonton and Vancouver, came back a day off, back at practice today with a much smaller group. How different was it with just the one group with all those players today? It kind of seems like it's the second stage of training camp, and now we're really into the short strokes before things get going for real a week from tomorrow in Southern California.
Yeah, full credit to the Jets for, with training camp and having the groups all at once instead of, they were on multiple ice services, but not dragging out the full day for having one group at a certain time and the second group going the other time. But yeah, it's like an NHL practice now. It was 50 minutes today. There's some power play time, but it was, you see the lines that we're going to see basically without injuries happening as the season gets closer and closer. Clearly there's 6 guys fighting over set amount of spots up front. And then it's starting to clear out a little bit. We knew who's going to be on the blue line. There's no question about it when this comes up. And to have the 2 goalies in that question, that's out of the window. That never was a conversation either. So it was a long way of saying practice is back to normal. And to see the power play unit shape out the way they were, that was kind of a couple of things that stood out today.
Hey, first things first, let's talk about Logan Stanley. He, and Maurice said after the game that he didn't seem to be too concerned. He said this certainly felt like it was precautionary, but at the same time, no Logan Stanley today. I know Coach Maurice spoke afterwards. Are we talking day to day? Is there any worry? So it doesn't seem like there's much worry unless there's a setback that the big guy is going to be in the lineup for game number 1.
Yeah, Paul did say they got him off the ice in time to stay away from anything else. And I saw Logan Stanley come on the bus on the ride back to the airport in Vancouver. So he seemed like he was moving fine. But I mean, moving fine and playing hockey, I guess, are 2 different things in the whole scheme of things. But it is day to day. Doesn't seem to be a whole lot of concern for Big Stan, the Stanimal, whatever you want to go with this long hockey season. But man, this is what we're talking about already. And it's not a serious injury, but now you start going, okay, how does this all fit in? So, Nathan Beaulieu and Billy Heinola worked through the 3 defense pairings today. I still think Beaulieu's higher up on the depth chart in that department. There's no question about that. So he was paired with Dylan DeMello to start the day. And I know they did cycle in and out and there was some mix and matches, but it's the defense pairings you're going to see. Clearly Josh Morrissey with Schmidt and Pionk and Brennan Dillon. And of course it was DeMello and Beaulieu today and fitting in with Billy Heinola. So Big Stan will fit in there somewhere. I'm sure he's going to be fine as we get it. It's a week away somewhere along the line. I think he'll be back in the lineup.
I mean, listen, reading the tea leaves on the defense and, things were different. If we didn't have the Jets didn't have the additions in the top 4, I think the situation's a little different for Billy Heinola. But for Nate Beaulieu, I mean, what a beloved teammate he is. I mean, he is a serviceable player. I mean, he has his warts like a lot of players do. But, Jamie, he seems to be a perfect guy that could be your extra defenseman, assuming that the top 6 is as we've assumed it's going to be, you know, with Stanley playing with Dylan DeMello. Because he's a guy that, the coach is not worried about putting in for a game or 2 here, in spot duty, but also practices really hard, is a guy that you can count on, and is a big part of the team unit when they're off the ice right now. So, I mean, it sort of seems like the writing's on the wall. And let's face it, from an organizational standpoint, I'd far rather have a veteran defenseman with 1 year left on his contract spending extended time in the press box than having a young first-round pick that could really benefit from playing 20-plus minutes a night on what's going to be a really good Manitoba Moose team.
Yeah, and you just said it right there, Huss. Like, Billy Heinola was all over the place last season, right? He starts here in Finland. He plays the World Hockey Junior Hockey Championships. Then he bounces back between the Jets and the Moose. Is on the taxi squad. did not get a fair shake, or not so much a fair shake, but fair amount of playing time. So what you have this year is a perfect opportunity for Heinola to develop where he should be in the American Hockey League, and agree with you 100% about Nathan Beaulieu. First off, let's keep this in mind. Last year, not this season, last offseason, the captain Blake Wheeler pushed. He told us in a walk-off that he pushed to keep Nathan Beaulieu on to bring him back for another bring him back, period. I'm not going to get into what they said about the conversation and how long he was going to be back. But how many times have we seen Nathan Beaulieu throw his body in front of something? Like in the preseason Vancouver, blocking shots, just howitzer shots. It doesn't matter. Preseason, regular season, playoffs. He's getting in front of that. He'll kill penalties. Billy's not there yet. And one day, clearly, he's going to be in the power play conversation. He's going to be in top 4 conversation. This organization. This is not that year, and that's okay. We have to get over this whole thing when a guy gets drafted in the first round, shows well at World Juniors. You get excited. He's got offensive flair to him. He's exciting every time he touches the puck. That's not going to give you what you need at the NHL level. Billy's going to get there one day. It's just not yet, and we should all applaud the fact that he's going to get the opportunity to play a lot at the American Hockey League level. And as you touched on, the Moose are going to be a good team. They're going to be competitive, barring injuries to the Jets, and you lose all your players like you do traditionally in an American Hockey League season. But the right moves are being made right now with Nathan Beaulieu and Ville Heinola.
Yeah, well, and make no mistake about it. At least this is my perspective on this. I mean, and I hope it doesn't come to this, but I mean, if there's a significant injury, especially in the top 4, Dylan DeMello's shown that he can go in and he can play that role. But I mean, I think the opportunity for a guy like Heinola to come in and play some games absolutely will be there. I mean, it's not like they're shutting the door on him for this season and we'll see you next year in training camp. I mean, Craig Heisinger is the first one to tell you, you need 12 solid defensemen if you want to win a Stanley Cup, because the grind that the playoffs are, takes its toll, and a lot of guys aren't able to go. So this is the way things are going to start going forward, and I think it does make the most sense. Heinola is one player. Perfetti is in a different situation, and this would have been way different if they didn't change the rules to allow Cole Perfetti to play in the American Hockey League. And I think long term, we'll look back at this last year. The pandemic sucked for everybody. Cole Perfetti might be one of the few people that ended up being a winner through all of it because of his experience last year and now the opportunity to play in the American Hockey League. But he is showing that he can hang with the big boys. Tell us what Maurice had to say today about the potential of Perfetti in that day one lineup. We've sort of speculated here that, Perfetti's probably not long for the NHL at the beginning of the season. I would assume that all things being equal and people being healthy, he's going to end up with the Manitoba Moose in a very similar situation to Ville, being able to be called up, but playing big minutes. But it did seem like, the fact that your number one center is out for game number 1 may provide an opportunity for Perfetti, but I would imagine maybe the guy that has the most to do with that is the capologist of the Winnipeg Jets, because there's quite a bit of salary cap machinations that are out of my pay grade right now that they're dealing with, wanting to maximize their ability for LTIR and the potential to, add players later on in the season if need be in and around the trade deadline.
Yeah, and Paul Maurice even touched on that fact too. About you get a salary cap explanation and you're lost about halfway through it, right? It's a gift to be able to understand how this is all going to work and shift guys in and out of the lineup. And Cole Perfetti is in that right area of a contract, right? It's entry level. It's wonderful to work with if you're the capologist and you want to fit people into things. I think Cole Perfetti is. You touched on that. The pandemic hurt a lot of development for a lot of players, not just here in Winnipeg, but across the National Hockey League. But Cole Perfetti is in a unique place where he got to be in the American League last year and develop his game and get stronger, get more confident, prove to himself that he can play the game. He's also benefited this camp by being stallmates with Mark Scheifele, and they've had lots of conversations. And one thing that kind of stood out with Paul Maurice saying similarities between Cole Perfetti and Mark Scheifele is that when you ask each one of those players what happened on a certain play, you're going to get a pretty darn good answer back. And he did mention the fact a lot of players, you ask what happened here, and they'll go, I don't know, I don't remember, which is fine. We've all been there. I forget where my keys are in 2 seconds. Never mind trying to tell you what happened in a certain play. But that's not with Cole Perfetti, and that's not with Mark Scheifele. That's going to benefit Perfetti clearly in his development because he understands what he has to do and where he wants to be, but he's always asking questions. That's the conversation we've heard consistently through camp. He's just always asking the coaches. He's asking Mark Scheifele. He asks the people that he needs to ask where he wants to get better. And again, same thing. He's a first-round pick, 10th overall. It's very attractive idea to have him up here, but there's a log jam of players up front. It's going to take a pretty significant injury at some point to get him in there. He has to play top 6. And at least, the Jets are one of the few teams I could say that top 9, really good. You could have some fun with that, especially – with Adam Lowry, you have something and Paul Stastny on the other side. There's just a lot of benefits for that as well. So let's go top 9 at some point for him. Man, I've just seen a lot of good moves. He makes good plays, but there's still learning the NHL game and the speed and catching up to it. And I think we all have to be a little patient with Cole Perfetti because it's a lot of fun to pencil him in your lineup, but you don't want him sitting on the 4th line right now. There's too many guys that are veteran players that know what happens when you want to sit in that 4th line. And I think Cole Perfetti, if he's on the opening night roster, tremendous, but let's not get too upset if he's not either.
Yeah, no doubt. I saw it, and I can't remember what it was, like a fantasy hockey preview that had him at 47 or 48 points. I'm like, you're gonna have to play a lot of games to clock that. I might take the under on this season for Perfetti, but I do think there'll be the over on that in future seasons here in Winnipeg. A really exciting player. Jamie, the other thing that I know you and everyone's been paying attention to, that was the intrigue going into this camp. It wasn't on the blue line. It was on it was up front in the bottom 6. Mason Appleton's vacated spot alongside Adam Lowry, which got a little more interesting with the swap right now of Kopp and Stastny. It's a little bit of a different look with Stastny on that line as opposed to Kopp. And then the entire 4th line. We've seen Vesalainen getting the opportunity, and he was back. Maybe we'll start there. Vesalainen had been playing with Lowry and Stastny. We did see a swap. Riley Nash moved from the 4th line on that right wing, and yet now it sort of seems like they're really in preparation mode for the opener. Vesalainen was there again. Is Vesalainen seemingly maybe the smart money for the opening opportunity to play with those two guys? And what have you thought of his camp so far?
Camp-wise, Huss, I think he's been great. But I think, you go back to that game last week, and at least Wednesday against the Bakersfield Condors, it was a very young lineup.
The Oiler team.
You have Lowry and Stastny. You're not expecting much from them. They're veterans. They know what they got to play. But I thought you wanted to see a lot more from Christian Vesalainen in that game than we did. He got a lot better in the weekend in Edmonton and Vancouver respectively. So yeah, he's over on that side. I just think the potential of the size that you have there and a guy in Stastny that can get him the puck, it's there. And I believe from what I'm hearing from Paul Maurice, the opportunities will be there, but he did use the quote, it has to bear fruit at some point. And that to me says maybe the leash is a little shorter than we might've thought it at the beginning, but Christian Vesalainen is a very smart player. I think he realizes the opportunity he has in front of him. And the players that he's playing with, again, with that 3rd line that has helped accelerate and move a lot of people into big contracts like the Brandon Tanevs, moved great opportunities for the Mason Appletons. Andrew Kopp's a top 6 forward now. So you can't sit there and tell me anybody that plays on the 3rd line, the Jets, is not going, wow, this could lead to something bigger on top of that.
Hey, you know what? It's an interesting statement. I think it's totally accurate about Vesalainen. It has to bear fruit. Can we say the same thing about Kopp playing alongside Dubois and Ehlers on that top line? I mean, is that something he's been so successful with Lowry? I will admit, I was a little surprised that, we kind of started off camp and they made that swap. And listen, it was no disrespect to Kopp. I mean, he had a great season last year and he showed that he could hang with those guys when given the opportunity last year. But again, Paul Stastny is as versatile a player as the Winnipeg Jets have right now. Is that how long do you think that goes? Or is it just a matter of Kopp's already shown that, he's ready, capable of being there, and the Winnipeg Jets are a better team with that swap right now going into game 1?
Yeah, I think Andrew Kopp has proven everything you need to do. They're playing everywhere throughout the lineup for the Jets to get this opportunity. And, he's comfortable on the power play. He played on power play 2 again today. At training camp today, but you have to get Pierre-Luc Dubois going here. That's one of the most important things, I think, going into camp here. He's got to get there. So you have somebody that is so good at positioning, so good at playing the defensive side of the game, so good at getting the puck So that's going to help Pierre-Luc Dubois. And Nikolai Ehlers has already shown he can play a defensive part of his game, because obviously he wouldn't play with Mark Scheifele and Blake Wheeler for stretches over the past couple of years. I think there's a long leash here. I think this is the line we're going to see here because of what Stastny will provide with Lowry overall. And Andrew Kopp pointed out, I didn't play, and I'm paraphrasing, I didn't play with Lowry that much last year. In fact, he had it down to the shifts and games that he didn't play with. And you know Andrew Kopp very well. It's next time you have him on, you may as well just ask him, how many games exactly did you
Give me the breakdown, Copper.
That's right. I was on the left side for 14 minutes and 6 seconds this one game. So on a Saturday in Anaheim. So I think this is what we're going to see for a while. It's just the big question is, like, how does that fourth line look, and how do guys fit in? We haven't even touched on Evgeny Svechnikov, right? It's just like Svechnikov's even.
He and Harkins, to me, have been the two great stories of camp so far. I mean, I think this team was waiting for some guys to step up. Mm-hmm. Harkins has a contract. Svech doesn't even. And again, that I don't even know when that gets signed. I mean, I think there's a possibility that gets signed actually after game one or the day of game one. Again, going back to what we were talking about with the salary cap issues for the Winnipeg Jets. But I don't think there's any doubt that Svechnikov has absolutely proven that he was a good bet for the Winnipeg Jets to take on in the fashion that they did. And it seems like he's earned a spot. And, you know, when we look at this line today, and again, I'm just going to sort of assume that, you know, Paul Maurice has said at this point now we sort of look as to how we want to look on game number one and prepare for that. Mm-hmm. No surprise that Riley Nash is in the middle, but it's those two guys, Harkins and Svechnikov, that have, they certainly starred against Bakersfield last Wednesday, scoring, it seemed like, every time they were on the ice. Both of those guys have made the most of these opportunities and seemingly trending towards being in that opening night lineup.
Yeah, I mean, you don't read too much into lines in camp, but, you know, the light blue jersey is like that's your fifth line. That's how things play out traditionally in practice for the Jets. And that was Gustafsson, Toninato, and Perfetti, Harkins, Nash, and Svechnikov. Like Svechnikov could even find himself on the right side of the Lowry line at some point. Like there's that ability to do that. And I think what this camp has given the Jets, and it's just through competition that is pushing guys that maybe needed a little nudge. And I'm not saying Jansen Harkins didn't nudge himself enough last year, just unique circumstances, but you can tell his eyes are open in camp this year. There is no doubt he's brought his game. There's no doubt he recognizes this is a chance to he's going to kill penalties. You're on the fourth line. You're going to get your time. That's what Paul Maurice does a great job of making sure those guys aren't sitting for tremendous amounts of time. And then Riley Nash's, NHL resume speaks for itself. The Svechnikov issue, the Svechnikov question is what I want to see how this is going to bear out in the next couple of days against Calgary, whether or not he's playing in both games, and then how opening night looks. And then we have to remember Mark Scheifele is not playing opening night. So that's maybe, to me, where Svechnikov fits in as well. Not saying on the top line, but you know what I'm trying to get at here. He's opening night roster bound in some ways in that aspect. So there's that opening night thing that's going to be really strange. Paul Maurice touched on the fact that he's going to practice and show some lines of how that's going to look when you don't have your best player or your best centerman up the middle there for that first game. So we still have a lot of answers to be found out here as camp winds down.
Yeah, well, hopefully it's a one-game thing and they're not practicing for any absence of 55 later on in the year, because we know how important he is. And you mentioned, Harkins getting nudged or nudging himself into the lineup. Mm-hmm. It's interesting you say that because, and I know Jansen, he's been with the club for a while, but I mean, last year, I think a lot of people, and probably to him, was a little disappointing that he wasn't in a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And I think specifically of going game 54 into 55 with the injuries, it was Dominic Toninato that nudged his way into the lineup, and he was there in the playoff game number one. And I have a feeling that resonated quite loudly with Jansen Harkins. And, bottom line is he came in ready to go and has shown that maybe it's him that's doing the nudging back into the lineup right now. But, of course, it does leave right now Toninato. And we've talked about Perfetti before, but Toninato as well as David Gustafsson. And Gustafsson was a guy I thought, because of what he did last year with the Manitoba Moose, and he has been up before, he's got, great in the faceoff circle, very solid defensively, that the logical choice might be him in the middle. But I'm not sure that is the case right now. Just tell us a little bit about Toninato's situation and Gustafsson right now, ostensibly, at least in practice today, on the outside of the top 12, knocking on the door.
Right. And is it better for Dominic Toninato to be your extra forward? And it goes back to the same thing with Billy Hanel. You want David Gustafsson to get some more playing time. For a young guy, he's really good in the draws, and you don't see that very often. Usually there's that learning curve. And I'm not saying he's better than Adam Lowry, but to be where he is in the faceoff dot's important for his NHL career and his development and being on an NHL roster, never mind his positioning, which was already solid when they drafted him in the second round. That was already part of his game. He's not fast, but he's quick. We've heard Paul Maurice refer to that many times. It's just quick where he has to be. So this is going into that whole conversation about the competition for these 3 spots or 4 spots, if you're counting the right side of the third line. That is only going to make this team that much better. And I think there's a lot of teams that would kill to have what the Jets have on paper and so far through training camp and 4 exhibition games to decide over for your opening night roster.
Jamie Thomas with us from Jets TV and Jets Radio 680 CJOB. Of course, he'll be calling all the games along with our pal Paul Edmonds beginning 1 week from tomorrow. But obviously all the exhibition games are on there as well. Jamie, I want to ask, you've got some unique access. You're around the team quite a bit. Mm-hmm. Brendan Dillon, Nate Schmidt, what have they been like off the ice? We've spoken with both of them. They seem like great guys. And how has their addition, we'll spend a lot of time talking about on the ice, but I'm interested in the team dynamic with these 2 new guys that have come in, very important roles, established NHL players, and how they're fitting in with their new squad.
I think right away you've changed, I don't want to say the culture, but you've lightened up the dressing room. Pretty serious down to business. And there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with a business only type of club. But hearing Nate Schmidt say that he wants to peel back the onion that is Josh Morrissey, and Paul Maurice saying he's always looking for somebody else to talk to. And I'm talking about Nate Schmidt, right? I'm just like, why don't you want a guy like that? That can still play. I'm not just kidding. You're the joker in the room. That's your 13th forward or, the 8th defenseman. This is a guy that can play on your power play. I love that stuff. We as broadcasters and media, we need this stuff. So if you imagine that we need it every once in a while for a quote to lighten up our pregame shows or our postgame shows or our coverage, never mind what you need in the dressing room in January and February when it's cold here and you need something it's a long season. They're going from a 56 game season to an 82 game season. There's going to be some effects of that. It's an Olympic year. We've got a compressed schedule. There's all kinds of craziness going on that we're not usually used to. So already I think they have something. There's also the presence of Brendan Dillon. Dan Murphy, who works for Sportsnet in Vancouver, texted me right away. He said, you've added 2 tremendous people to your dressing room. So that's all you really need to know, right? Murphy covered the Canucks last year, knows a little bit about Nate Schmidt, and of course Brendan Dillon is a Vancouver native. So there's all that play, or a BC native. So that plays into that whole thing. He knows a little bit, knows what they're getting. And the Jets need that, and that's what they've got. And I think it's just shaping up, buddy. We're just for a guy to people tweeting out that I need to get this guy's jersey or here's a guy they should roll this tape about what Winnipeg is like. You want somebody promoting your team. When
Did
you're
you see
a small
Schmidt's
market.
interview with Sarah after the game? I mean, I got as many tweets about that as they did about anything that happened in the game. And I mean,
Does anyone know what Schmidt has done at all during the preseason? No, they're all paying attention to what he's been saying. And that's a big boost. I mean, you need, in a small market like this, tough winters, we don't need to go over it. You just need somebody pushing for your side. And I know there's enough of the core group that has shown that this is a great place to be in, a great organization. You still need these other guys coming in every once in a while to say, yeah, it's great to be here. I'm happy to be here. And that goes with Paul Stastny, Brendan Dillon, and Nate Schmidt.
Do we know much about tomorrow's lineup for the last home game against the Flames? Should we, assume that it's going to sort of be the top 12 right now? Will they be going with sort of the lineup that Maurice is expecting or is close to it, minus Mark Scheifele's absence in game 1? Yeah,
I think that we're going to get the best of the, a fair chunk here. You still have people on the outside looking in, trying to work their way in. You want to get. But Paul Maurice has seen all the young guys already. That's clearly the guys that are with the Manitoba Moose today and are trying to clear, are going to clear waivers here eventually. I think the best that you're going to see some pretty good lineups being put out on Wednesday and Friday just to wrap this up. So Flames fans in Calgary would be expecting something half decent, and Jets fans the final preseason game, because you're not going to see the team for a while, right? After this, and it'll be half decent. Let's just go.
Yeah, it's tomorrow night, and then it's the home opener. So it will be a little while. Jamie Thomas with us. JT, just before we go, I do want to quickly move away from hockey and our day jobs for a moment to the passion. What did you think? How's the fantasy season going? And what a crazy weekend in the National Football League. You had Brady's return. You had a pretty wild Monday nighter. A lot of games that didn't end up close and teams getting back into it. Yeah. And I know you're very busy on the Jets beat right now, but I do know you well enough to know that you've been spending quite a time checking the waiver wire coming up for this weekend and whatnot.
You know who I've had enough of? I've had enough of Allen Robinson at this point, right? It just
he's on the list.
He's on the list, buddy. How many times you got to keep going to the well with that guy? And then I thought Mike Williams was on the cusp of being a top WR1 and one catch on Monday Night Football, and with just that type of stuff will send you to the mental suite. That's just those types of things. You see a lot of things turn out. There was the drama of Sunday night with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. Everyone said it was a great game. It wasn't that great of a game, but still.
It was great if you had the Pats +7.
Yeah, that's right, baby. It's fantastic. The betting side, there's a lot of people that are happy. And I mean, the Chiefs and Eagles game was all fantastic. But you're starting to see clearly through 4 weeks, the teams that have terrible offensive lines are terrible. So you can talk all you want that Tua is the wrong quarterback, and I know he's hurt right now, but that offensive line is awful. Pittsburgh is, Najee Harris, you spend a first-round pick on a running back, but you don't have any offensive line to block for the guy. There's some...
And a quarterback that can't throw further than 7 yards downfield. That doesn't help.
Yeah, this is a 6-time winning Super Bowl winning franchise that has made the right decisions more times than not. But how are you allowing a guy to hold you hostage and not allow you to draft a successor? I know that's clearly in the conversation, but if you're going to go with a guy that can't throw and your offensive line is terrible, then I don't know what you're really doing. So there's a lot of interesting things shaping up. Aaron Rodgers being an issue. I'm like, okay, that's old now. Chicago's writing off, and now Justin Fields is starting to look a little bit better, although it was against the Detroit Lions. There's just little things that are starting to shape up that we're going to notice patterns throughout the year.
Hey, the one thing I have to ask you, I count my hands up on this. I stayed away from the game betting wise, but I was fully all in on the Rams. You have that huge win against Tampa.
Yes.
They got served by the Cardinals, who are now 4-0 at home on the weekend. At what point do we start saying, well, exactly. We knew Kyler Murray was going to get his, but the defensive performance, and this goes right back to the licking they put on the Titans in week number 1. Yes. I've made jokes about Cliff Kingsbury and whatnot. I thought, and that's a hell of a division. They were kind of the 4th ranked team of 4. But I got to tell you, the story of this season so far through the first quarter mark has to be what the Cardinals are doing in the desert.
Yeah, and I think the narrative coming into week 4 was the Rams were Kyler Murray's kryptonite. And it didn't look like it at all. Apparently not. So it's just you have all these patterns going in and all these things to work off of. And then, a defense that wasn't being talked about enough heading into the regular season. It's incredible what they've done in the desert. I'm not saying they're the best team in the NFL right now, but they are inching their way into the conversation. And one of the biggest surprises, there was no way I thought the Rams would lose to the Cardinals. I thought maybe Thursday night against Seattle because it's a short week. But now I think Seattle's in trouble after what happened with the Rams. There's a strong chance there'll be a blowout on Thursday Night Football.
Well, I appreciate the Jets scheduling Wednesday and Saturday. Perfect for us. We've got Thursday Night Football. We've got the Bombers on Friday. We've got our full Sunday slate. It's all working out for guys like us. Jamie, thanks so much for doing this. Say hi to Edmonds. Get those pipes ready for tomorrow. And most importantly, game number 1, 9 p.m. Winnipeg time, the 13th in Anaheim against the Ducks.
Get your nap in on Wednesday, guys. That's what you know.
Right on. Thanks, pal.
Okay, buddy. See you later.
Give him a follow on Twitter at Jamie Thomas TV. And of course, you can catch all the action. Paul calling it, Jamie riding shotgun on 680 CJOB. Hey, Not Auto Corp, very special guest coming into Not tomorrow for, I mentioned that the second Not commercial is going to be made. That's right. The Turtle Man is back. You may see a cameo from someone that's familiar to you in it. Looking forward to getting together with the guys tomorrow. And of course, always great to head on down to Not. If you are looking for a vehicle and you've never been there, start at Not Auto Corp, Waverly and McGillivray. Why not get into the car of your dreams at a great price with the help of the Not team? Check out all the incredible vehicles on the lot, or they'll help you find the perfect vehicle for you and your family. And as I mentioned, the Winnipeg Car Lab now also at Not Auto Corp, officially open, just doing their first printing on the weekend, wraps, lines, tinting, all of those things, rims as well. So if you're looking, you're maybe a mod guy or you're a business that wants a great looking vehicle to promote your business, the Winnipeg Car Lab's the place to do it. You can find out more at Not Auto Corp, or you can hit them on socials at Winnipeg Car Lab. Coming up on Friday, Bombers, Elks, and that means our friends at Canadian Club, the official whiskey of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, will be with us. Another very popular game day marble race. And we've got some incredible new merch, co-branded Winnipeg Sports Talk with CC, the official Bomber whiskey. We'll be giving away our first hoodie as well as an I Love Rye package on Friday afternoon. So you do not want to miss that. Of course, you can get the great taste of Canadian Club throughout IG Field, at the game on Friday, and at your local Manitoba Liquor Marts. And speaking of CC, I'm going to be going with the CC gang along with our pal DQ Nick. I know Nick was in the chat a little earlier. Not sure whether he's still here, but we'll be doing it, and it's 28 degrees. We're getting extra blizzard weather here, folks. Now, it's blizzard weather, much like it's Slurpee weather in Winnipeg, 365 days a year. Take advantage, grab the kids, get on out this evening, pop down to one of the 4 Nick and Nicky DQs, the DQ in Niverville, the DQ in Northgate, DQ Polo Park, or DQ on St. Anne's. And while you're there, you can snag an ice cream cake for your next event. Be the hero, bring one of those. And of course, the Dilly Bars, Buster Bars, and all the great take-home treats they have as well. Hit them up on Instagram at DQ Manitoba. All right, we'll get to some Coolbet Lines a little bit later on. I do believe we've got some, by the way, Schickster. Schickster, I saw I'm not sure whether I'm going to get the car wrapped. Certainly not with your idea. But if I was going to get my car wrapped, I'd go to Winnipeg Car Lab to do it. I do believe we've got a little bit of Jets audio. And Remo, as I was speaking with the guys, Kevin and Jamie, with some great conversations, I believe a little more coming out about Kenny Lawler's apology. Where do you want to start now that we get to the back end of the program?
Yeah, a couple things here. Sorry, I'm just getting settled in. We can hear from Maurice shortly. Let me just get that ready to go. We do have those ice tickets to give away. Did you want to do that? Do you want me to initiate the giveaway in chat?
That's a great idea. Thanks again to Brian Munns for helping us out. A lot of excitement about Connor Bedard's appearance tomorrow at the Ice Cave and the Regina Pats. Now, the home team coming out of the weekend certainly was the story, but Connor Bedard, every time he gets on the ice this year and for the next couple years, is going to be a huge story in hockey. So he's coming in tomorrow. What do we want to do? Exclamation mark tickets like we did before?
Yeah, I think I just did it. So it might be, I hope I did exclamation tickets. Yes, exclamation tickets. It's in the chat right now. So it'll gather all the names. Just type it in. The tickets are tomorrow. Sorry, the game is tomorrow. So.
Yeah, game is tomorrow. So only put in if you want to go to the game tomorrow. Take it from our boy Jeff Kabilis, who's in the chat right now, saying that he had a great time at the game. It really is fun. It's some great hockey as well. So yeah, if you do want to go to the game tomorrow, exclamation mark tickets. We'll cut that off in a few minutes. And Hustler's Diet Pepsi is noticing that I've been hydrating, drinking water.
We're sponsored by Culligan. So
he just said, "I miss you, Hustler." I figured I have to get 4 bottles in. I'm just about there. Don't worry, I'm still keeping it real. I got one right here. I learned how to mute my mic during the last interview so I could open it without the entire chat going up going, he just cracked a Diet Pepsi, didn't he?
Yeah.
But I can tell you, I've had a lot of water so far.
You didn't see it on camera, but Jamie Thomas had a water jug. That must have been at least it was probably a gallon jug that he was drinking of while he was in the waiting room before we brought him on. And I just messaged him hey, nice water bottle. That puts it to shame. Puts Kenny's water bottle to shame. This thing could last you a long time, but that guy likes to hydrate. Here, we have the Kenny Lawler comments. You want me to just read that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we will have Coach Paul Maurice. We'll hear what the coach had to say post-practice. He just spoke in the last little while we've been on the air. But yeah, if you're tuning in now, and we've been talking a lot of hockey, the big story coming out of yesterday's show was the announcement, about 8 o'clock or so last night from the Winnipeg Blue Bombers that Kenny Lawler was arrested for a DUI and had been suspended for Friday's game, and would be speaking with his teammates today, and then making an announcement, making it an apology and speaking about it a little later on. So Remis has it up there. There's a lot more, a full story coming up later on bluebombers.com. But here are a couple of the quotes from Kenny Lawler. First of all, he initiated an apology saying this was a mistake, a selfish decision. I'm sorry to everybody out there. Here's the quote. To anyone out there, this is something for me that I never thought would happen. I know there's a lot of people out there who think like that. No, this ain't going to happen to me. I'm not going to get pulled over. I'm not going to get in a crash. To be honest, it could happen to anyone. And I want everyone out there to be very smart about the decisions they make. I'm just thankful and blessed that I didn't hurt anybody, that I didn't hurt myself. Something like this could be 10 times worse. I want the kids, the fans, adults, anyone to really think twice about the decisions you're about to make when you're not in the right mind. Once again, I'm sorry. And then Ed's got another quote from, this is from him on meeting with his teammates. One, the support from my teammates has been amazing. I'm embarrassed. Man, I was dreading walking in the locker room and having to deal with everything that's happened and transpired. As soon as I walked in this locker room, I was being hugged. People were coming and patting me on the back and letting me know I'm going to get through this. I was feeling the worst ever, that I would not get through it. With the teammates and my family, they've been very supportive. My message that I told the team, I'm sorry that I let y'all down and I took myself off the field this Friday. I'm sorry I let y'all down, the community, a lot of things. I just wanted them to know I was sorry. This is something I didn't want to have on my shoulders, and the reality of the situation is this is what I'm going through. I want to let them know that I made a mistake, and most importantly, when I come back, I'm going to be a better man, father, teammate, player. I believe this is going to be a very important turning point in my career. Hey, that's what you want to hear from someone. I mean, you can't do anything to change what happened. All you can do going forward is to accept the consequences of your actions and work to be a better person, teammate, father, everything that Kenny just said. So I'll tell you what, I mean, as far as the apology ratings go, it ranks pretty high. I know some people, it won't matter. Like Kevin said, you do something like that, some people won't be able to get over it. But for Kenny Lawler, his life is going to go on. He's going to have to earn a spot back in the lineup. He's going to have to earn some trust. Probably, it sounds like his teammates are there, and I think that doesn't surprise me. It's a very close-knit group of which he's a big part of. But there'll be some trust to earn back from the community, from the Winnipeg Blue Bombers owners or organization, as well as the head coach. But I will say, Remis, considering what I just read out on the program, I think that's a pretty good start. But I'll tell you what, that's going to be a tough night for Kenny Lawler to be watching his first place team go up against the Elks, coming off the game that he had, knowing that it was, a terrible decision that he made. That's cost him. But, if he can make this a turning point in his life and his career, maybe there'll be some positive about it. The bottom line, what he said first, he's just thankful that nobody else and himself got hurt in the incident.
I agree. Everything was very, very well said. And I know John Hodge tweeted as well, Mike O'Shea, stating that Kenny Lawler is just going to be suspended for this game and doesn't expect the league to provide any further discipline. So 1-game suspension by the team. And I think this is fair. And they're going about this the right way. And it was a well-said apology there from Kenny Lawler, who says he made a mistake. He didn't think it could happen to him, and he's clearly learning and moving forward, and the team will move forward on Friday against Edmonton.
Yeah, and listen, I get some people will be cynical out there. That's part of where we are. And listen, he nailed all the points. I mean, as far as, if this wasn't a Bomber guy, we were talking about someone in another city that, we weren't following, that, you weren't fans of. We may have a chuckle about it going, wow, I believe someone already said right out of the PR playbook. But sometimes, you really do have to, you have to man up. It sounds like Kenny Lawler's done that. And it sucks for the Bombers to have to deal with this right now. He'll be dealing with this for a long time. And, if anything, maybe a cautionary tale, certainly a cautionary tale for a lot of other people, as Kenny Lawler mentioned. All right, we're going to get Paul Maurice's comments coming up in just a minute. But if you're with us live in the chat, you still have an opportunity to throw in exclamation mark tickets, and we'll be giving away those tickets. I tell you what we'll do. You've got through the Paul Maurice audio to put in exclamation mark tickets. Everyone that does that will get an entry. And then at the end of Maurice, we will see who our winner is and get you hooked up with those tickets. Congratulations to Jeff, who won the seats last week, as well as Tacos or Sandwiches, who also seemingly had quite a good time. But we spent a lot of time talking about the Jets today, with Jamie Thomas, a little bit with Kevin O. 5 lines left, kind of went down who it looks like they're going to be in the lineup, but let's hear it from the horse's mouth as Coach Paul Maurice spoke just in the last hour over at Jets HQ on practice today and approaching the final home preseason game tomorrow at Canada Life Place. Connor Hellebuck in net against the Calgary Flames.
Paul, can you update on injury status for guys like Logan or Nelson?
Logan's clearly is really day to day. Might morning skate tomorrow. He's not gonna play tomorrow night, but we got him out of the game at the right time. He feels good, so that's a positive. I think they were pretty open with Dylan Sandberg. Yeah, high ankle, he's a ways away, right? CJ Cease is kind of somewhere between Logan Stanley and Dylan Sandberg. It's going to be weeks, but not a month, I don't think. It's going to be 3 weeks maybe. And there's another one. Noj is between CJ Cease. So he's kind of in that, we think, week or two. So it's just day to day, 2 weeks out, 4 weeks out, 6 weeks out in general.
Paul, the flipping of Stanley and Dubois on the power play units, what kind of things are you looking for there?
Oh, so that was kind of part of training camp break, as this was the first day of power play, really. We were not even really looking at power play in the first few games, just we didn't have the personnel to do it. So we have what we ran last year, and then one player left. So we know we can run that, and then we want to spend some time running something else for both units. You've got Schmidt comes in, want him on a power play unit. We have always kind of run on the other side with Wheeler and then 2 righties across. Then we don't have that really for power play guys right now, but there are other ways to do it. So we want to try to play with some things on our power play for the next 2 games, and then we're going to go into Anaheim with a completely different look because Mark's not in lineup, right? So we got to get good at that. You're going to have key power play guys that get banged up over the year, and we want to be able to move around our power play and maybe even, I don't know, have a little bit of fun with it, right? But not necessarily sit through a long stretch where it's not working, where it's fine that it has worked, so you're very, very patient with it. But then there comes a point in time where frustration starts to build, and I think it starts to negatively affect your 5-on-5 play. So we want to be able to move it around a little bit more.
Spent a lot of time talking about Evgeny Svechnikov, Harkins, that fourth line. Where's Cole Perfetti fit in all of this right now? And
so he's had a better camp than I would have maybe thought a player at his age would have. I've liked it a lot. I think he does a lot of hard things well, which is usually what you spend all your time trying to teach these guys. Because they've had great success on their skill alone, and all the battles and the things that are for some skilled guys, not really on their resume. But I've liked that part of his game. He gets into the heavier areas. He competes on pucks. He's really attentive in the drills and doing things right. So the question for Cole will be, what's the best use? Obviously, the first, what helps the Winnipeg Jets win now most, and then what's the best straight line from him to being a productive member of the Winnipeg Jets? The answer to that one is he's going to have to play. That's kind of where he's at right now.
If you look at him, you have Mark out that first game. Is there a temptation there for you to have Cole in that spot?
Probably not in that spot. I don't know that you're setting him up to succeed at that point, but we would consider him. I will tell you now, and that first game is going to possibly be unlike a lot in terms of personnel, and that has everything to do with the cap. And so and I could explain it exceptionally poorly. So it's better that I don't, because when it explained to me, I only understood half of it. So there's going to be some pieces that move around that maybe aren't hockey related, or where they're at. But I'm okay with any one of the guys that's left and be in an opening night lineup. I got a place. I know where to put them, if that helps.
It seems like you're giving Christian Vesalainen every opportunity to seize that winger spot on the third line. And I'm wondering, even got on the penalty killing, are you changing him as a player, or are you asking him to do different things, or more or less, what does he need to do to make the Winnipeg Jets third line successful?
Yeah. Well, I'll start with the end of that. I mean, I would say control the puck more out of corners, in heavy areas, in open ice as well. So I'm going to be real patient with him, or let's say we've given him every opportunity right now because I've moved his position, right? So he wouldn't have been a player that said, yeah, I easily go over to the right side. He was willing to do that, but it's a challenge for him, and we agreed that we'd be patient in that. There is going to come a point in time that it has to bear fruit. It has to give us the idea that it will look good, whether that's 3 or 4 months from now or in the next 2 weeks. And also, if it doesn't, then I also need to feel like I have another option. Right, there has to be somebody else who has to go in that is at least as good there. So we'll be patient with it. It's gonna. If Paul plays there with Adam, then that means that line also has to generate some offense too. There has to be some offense that goes with it. So we're still waiting for it. Maybe still watching.
Is it unique in your years of experience with that line? That has been a constant. You've had guys come in, you've had guys kind of leave. Is it a unique feeling this year? Maybe not. I don't want to say lack of trust, but maybe not as much trust as when you had Andrew Kopp, Lowry, and I guess Mason before. You got 2 new. Yeah,
so I would say only on that line, and maybe if something has left, then something's also added. I've got a tremendous amount of faith in that 8. Not that I don't in the extra guys, just those other guys are now mature players. We don't. Pierre-Luc's our youngest guy, right, in that kind of top 8, and he's still got lots of part of his game that are developing and learning, but there's not 4 of them. So we can have, you're not every team, you're not going to get everything settled and set in stone. The cap won't allow that. So we got to do a bit of work here in finding players, developing them, finding how they fit together to get that kind of 4th line / extra player / 3rd line, those players 9 through 13, to get them to be a cohesive unit.
Just by virtue of having Adam Lowry, you're going to have some heaviness on that 3rd line regardless. With some of the personnel that's turned over the last couple of years, though, and with what you're looking at, how can you expect that line to be as heavy as it is played in past years with the personnel that you have this season?
What's changed off that line really more is speed than anything else. The heaviness is kind of always there, but Brandon Tanev was very, very quick. I wouldn't have put Joel Armia in that group, but so it'll look more like that line. We'll put a guy on there that can make some plays, that's got some size. Maybe what will be slightly different is how they come off the bench. So when that line was together 2, 3, 4 years ago, especially, I ran them in the 2-hole all the time, right, which protected that 3rd line. So Brian Little could play with a young Nick Ehlers and Patty Laine. They'd go out against lesser competition and they'd score and everything. Life is good, except that you eventually will need those players because they score. They get paid a lot of money. And that's just the way that you eventually need them, and they're going to want, I got to play 18 minutes. Well, the Jets have to win first. And then, but as soon as you're able to do that, then I can play players that can score more minutes, which should be a good thing. So we're kind of in that handoff range where I think you'll see the Lowry line play as much, but against different lines. Right? They'll play against the heavier lines. The other team not necessarily the best. They'll play against size. And then when I need D-zone face-offs left side, they're going out every single time. So I can get offensive guys more in the offensive zone. So the maturation of those other players will change where Adam comes out. But and maybe we start looking at that line and asking them to score a little bit more, where if they drew even on any night, their job was done, and we had a really good home record in those 2 years. Now, Adam, he's got Paul Stastny on his wing now, and not a young Andrew Kopp or a young Armia or one of these guys. He's got a veteran guy that can make plays. So if we looked at that line and said maybe more skill over there makes some sense, that might be a place maybe next year, maybe halfway through this year, that you consider one of these younger guys. It's not necessarily, I don't need necessarily 3 shutdown guys on that line anymore. I did for 2 years because I had to keep, you got Kyle Connor with Ehlers and Roslovic and all of those kids. You just couldn't run them in the top 6 or you lose. So things have changed around them that'll help them, I think.
Bit of a different direction, but you had talked about things you're going to coach a team so they look a little bit differently in all 3 zones. Give me an idea of how long it takes to kind of train your team or get them into doing something new. Like, are they going to be ready game 1 to play that style, or is you hit your stride with that around?
Yeah, so I'm not going to details of it, but the idea would be there's a bunch of things that we've kind of changed which should be done by now. Just really simple, basic things. We're going to change this on our forecheck, and we're going to change this. If there were components are easier to change than themes or styles, right? So we've changed a few components. There's one that's going to take about 2 or 3 months for it to get, and then one that's going to be a real challenge all year. But you'll probably be able to notice it fairly early. It just won't be good all the time. But it's just kind of a balance, right? It would just change our risk a little bit, or risk profile a little bit to play. It's not a more risky game, as a matter of fact. I think it's a smarter game, but I think it'll make us faster. All of it is tailored to make our team faster, to play a faster game.
All right, there is the coach, Paul Maurice, from earlier today. A number of topics. I found it interesting, Remo, particularly his comments about Perfetti. And then we sort of touched on this with Jamie, coach, talking about the salary cap ramifications of having players on the lineup and how that might go into game 1. And again, at some point, I've read this stuff. I have a pretty good idea of how it works, but it still gets... your mind becomes mush when you get too deep into the salary cap book and the CBA. But I will say this: come Scheifele's return in game number 2 of the season, I think we're going to look, barring injury, at a pretty similar group to what we saw in those top 4 lines for the Winnipeg Jets coming up tomorrow night when they take on Calgary. And of course, we are going to get to see Connor Hellebuyck, Remo, and that was one of the things that the coach had sort of telegraphed before the games on the weekend, that Hellebuyck, I think his quote was, "We need to get the big guy ready. He's getting the game tonight. He's getting the game Saturday. And you damn well know he's getting the start in game number 1 against the Anaheim Ducks next week."
Yeah, the one thing I liked hearing from him, and you've heard that kind of since the beginning of training camp, that he's saying, our team is going to look a bit different this year. We're trying to get more speed.
I love your Maurice impersonation.
I try. I've tried. It's okay. It's not great.
It's good. It's great.
But yeah, and I think that they know they have a much stronger defense, and they're actually going to maybe have their defense activate a little. And he said they're trying to play a faster speed game. So I'm looking forward to seeing that in action in the regular season, because preseason there's only so much you can take. I've seen comments on Twitter commenting on top line guys, like, these guys aren't going, and you watch it, like, they're not going like it's a regular season game. It feels like preseason hockey, and it's those bottom guys that are battling here. So I'm looking forward to that.
I think that'll change.
Yeah.
I think that'll change in the next couple games. I think that the real focus will be on ramping up to that, level that you're going to need for 82 games in the regular season, and hopefully a nice playoff run for the Winnipeg Jets going forward. So we'll have much more in tomorrow's game on tomorrow's show here, beginning at 1 live on YouTube and afterwards in your podcast feed. But as we did mention at the end of it, here's your last call, folks. Maybe you just popped in. We had Kevin O on earlier. Ice are hosting Connor Bedard and the Pats tomorrow night. We have a pair of tickets. If you have not already put in / tickets, do it right now, because Remis is going to finish it off. And what do? Just put in something and it pumps out a winner? The stream bot makes it happen?
I've done that, or I can take all the names and just put them into the wheel of names and we can spin that.
I would, yeah. Why don't you do? Yeah, actually, let's do a wheel spin. Okay, it's officially #prize wheel. It's happening right now. So Remis, you're gonna get that, and while you let me know when you're ready, and in the meantime, I'm gonna hit you with our daily lines for Coolbet Canada. Of course, if you haven't bet at Coolbet before, what are you waiting for? It's the spot I do all my betting, and I was a long time before they came on board. Best golf odds. We talked about that today. Give you a little tip if you don't want to go through the entire lock shop. Love Scotty Scheffler at 22-1, and Kevin Na, former winner of the Shriners Open, 30-1. So there's a couple golf bets. And I did see Pat Greggy. I literally just got a tweet. There's a golf special, plus 120 on the Greggy's golf special. Brooks Koepka, Victor Hovland, and Corey Connors to make the cut is paying plus 120. All pretty high up as far as the odds go for the event. So there you go. Greggy's golf special under golf, as well as the lines for the Shriners Open. But Remis is showing where it's at right now. My guy right there's Scotty Scheffler, 22-1. Love Scotty. I think he's going to get a big Ryder Cup bump. He was so good at the event a couple weeks back at Whistling Straits. Just tried my mute for the first time, Remo. Worked great.
And worked good, Kate.
Worked great. No one heard me with a quick cough there. All right, let's get to the Major League Baseball playoffs, though, because we got 2 wildcard games the next 2 days. Tonight, it is the Red Sox and the Yankees. Garrett Cole going for the Yanks against Nathan Eovaldi for the Boston Red Sox. And the Yankees are a minus 122 favorite. Now that's interesting. Yesterday was minus 125. When we did the lock shop this morning, it was minus 128. Now it's down to minus 122. So getting closer to even money, which means some people are liking the value on the Boston Red Sox, who were paying plus 104. Over under in this game is 7.5. And the run line for the Yankees, if you do want a bigger number, you can get plus 123 if you like the Yankees to win by 1.5. Now, tomorrow's NL wildcard game is between the Dodgers and the Cardinals. And the Dodgers and Cardinals are I believe the Dodgers had 106 wins, and they've got to play a sudden death game to just get into the playoffs. Just speaks to the ridiculous season that the Giants had that absolutely nobody saw coming except for maybe the San Francisco Giants themselves. But that leaves the Dodgers with Max Scherzer on the hill to play a 1-game do-or-die matchup against the St. Louis Cardinals. And a month ago, we wouldn't have even been talking about the Cardinals being in the mix for this. And then they went on a 17-game heater, winning 17 straight games. So they've had a week to prepare for this game. They've known that they're going to be in it since they clinched a spot. Whereas the Dodgers were still trying to catch the Giants. Anyways, here they are. Dodgers a massive favorite in this game. Minus 217. The Cardinals plus 182. And I got to tell you, I think the value is on the Cards. Dodgers in history, they have been so good for the better part of the last decade. And they found ways to lose in the playoffs way more often than not. They did, of course, finally get to the top of the mountain. They won the World Series. But the Dodgers traditionally have also come up small sometimes in the biggest games. And this isn't even just series. I mean, one bad game could be the end of it. So with Wainwright on the hill and the Cardinals riding all that momentum from their past month, I'm not sure that they'll win the game, But if you had to make me pick between the two and put a wager on plus 182 underdog or a minus 217 favorite, I think I'm going to ride with the Cardinals. The other thing I'll just hit right now, the World Series winner futures are out right now, and we don't see the Blue Jays listed, and maybe that's because everyone would be in on them right now. Dodgers right now still the favorites, but the Giants now 5-1 this is all for this year's. So right now your World Series odds, Dodgers the favorite 360, and of course they still have to play that play-in game. Giants plus 500, people sort of finally respecting them. Astros 550, Rays 6-1, White Sox plus 750, Brewers 8-1, Braves and Yankees 12-1, and the Red Sox and St. Louis Cardinals 17-1. One other thing we should touch on, just a quick little update on those CFL lines that hit yesterday. Ottawa tomorrow game. Don't forget, early game tomorrow for the CFL. We got a Wednesday game. Ottawa at Toronto. Ottawa 8.5-point underdogs on the road. Bombers were 13-point favorites yesterday. They're now 12.5-point favorites coming out of the Kenny Lawler news. He won't be in the lineup. Riders still 3-point favorites over Calgary. Ottawa 7-point underdogs in their second game of the week. Short week playing against the Alouettes on Thanksgiving Monday. And then the 3:00 game to finish it up. Battle of Ontario, Toronto and Hamilton. Ticats 6-point favorites in that game. Very strange to see Ottawa and Toronto with 2 games listed, but that's the strange CFL season making up for the missed game for the Elks a little earlier this season. Again, use promo code WST if you want to bet at Coolbet. 100% deposit up to $200 on your first deposit. All right, Remo, we've had a great show, and we're going to do the wheel. How are the preparations for the prize wheel going?
Preparations are going good, Hess. Here, let's bring it up. Yes. The Wheel of Names.
Nice. Congratulations to everyone that, or thanks to everyone that was listening that thought they might want to go to the game. Let's see. We've got Mitch. We've got Eric, Earl, JJW, Anthony May. Why am I reading these upside down? Brandon's in there.
Yeah, they're
Larry.
on the right. They're on the right side. You don't need to try to read the.
I know.
the ones on the wheel.
Trying to get ahead of it. Leslie's in there. Brad, Jet Fan, Anthony, Rob the Snark, Instant Noodles 123, Schickster's in there. And just quickly, while we do this, I did see a lot of people talking about NHL coming out tomorrow, the NHL video game.
Thursday is if you're on EA Play, you get a 10-hour preview.
Oh, nice.
So I forget. We'll go through the ratings if you want to give our rating reviews for the Jets.
We're going to try and get somebody to step up from the sports world and take on Remis. I'll do some commentary. That'll be a fun sub-stream we'll do at some point on our channel.
We're done to do a post-stream for sure.
You got it. But I know there were some people talking about PGA 2K21. Probably my favorite game ever. I've always loved golf games. Golf Club 2019 got me through the first 7-8 months of the pandemic. And then once 21 came out, I got it on the new computer. I do play it on the PC. It is so cool. And I'm right now trying to qualify for the TGC Tour. So if anyone else is playing on that, let me know. Would love to chop it up and get a game. All right, Remo. Everyone that has put in exclamation mark tickets that wants to go to the Ice game tomorrow is in. Now I believe it's time for the CTO to, as it says on the screen, click to spin.
All right, here we go. Ready? 3.
I'm ready.
2, 1.
Oh, we even got some great sound effects for this. Here we go. Who's it going to be? Machiavelli. Mitch was so close. Eric Bayer is the winner. Eric, congratulations. Nicely done. You, my friend, are going to go see the Winnipeg Ice, the 2-0 Winnipeg Ice, take on the Regina Pats with Connor Bedard in the lineup. I'm not sure whether we have you on social media, but you can either send us a DM at the Winnipeg Sports Talk Twitter account or fire an email over at winnipegsportstalk@gmail.com. We'll just need your email address, and then Munzie will send you out the tickets, and you'll be good to go.
Yeah, that was a quick one. Almost landed on Mitch. I think I just added Eric, so I think he's still in here. But if you're listening,
Eric there. I see Eric. Eric's just saying
oh,
yay.
he says yay.
He's
Okay.
quite happy.
There you go. He says yay. Mitch says he was close. I thought it was going to be Mitch.
Mitch was so close. If that was at, the carnival where they've, you're spinning the wheel and it's got the thing that turns on, it might have stayed on Mitch's, but it ended up on Eric. So Eric, congratulations. We'll be able to do that throughout the season, hopefully, with our friends over at the Winnipeg Ice. Should be a great game tomorrow and busy hockey night tomorrow. And I think, thank God, after having nothing for so long, we're going to have a lot of these busy hockey nights with two teams playing on the same night. Tomorrow, it's 2 home games. Ice out at the Ice Cave at Wayne Fleming Arena. Jets downtown, Canada Life Center, taking on the Calgary Flames. And both games getting underway at 7 o'clock p.m. And, of course, Moose in training camp right now. They'll be getting their season going. So, it sort of dawned upon me when I talked to Kevin, and I brought this up, and I'll mention it again for people that weren't here earlier on the program. Goes without saying, we've been talking about it for months. I mean, the excitement about this Winnipeg Jets team and what it might be able to accomplish this season. Then you have the Manitoba Moose, which certainly from my perspective, at any point since the team returned to Winnipeg, the most talent on this club, the most top young legitimate prospects that will be able to move up and play in the Jet lineup. And that's going to mean great things for Mark Morrison's squad as he begins his time on the bench of the Manitoba Moose. And then there's the Winnipeg Ice. I think their work on the weekend speaks for itself as to what they did against the Brandon Wheat Kings. But there's a lot of hockey left to be played. And as Kevin mentioned, Brandon was missing some pretty key players. But the Ice are one of the favorites this year. And they don't just have, eyes on a WHL championship, but also potentially a Memorial Cup. So it's going to be just an incredibly fun hockey season. I think everyone around these parts certainly deserves it. And hopefully we'll enjoy it all and make the most of it. Remo, before we go, and I know we do have to get out because we're up against it, I've seen some hilarious Urban Meyer shots in the chat. And how bad of a day did Herb have yesterday? Having to face the media after getting busted on social media, well, by people that were in his bar, taking pictures of him getting grinded by a hot young co-ed and putting a couple of fingers where they absolutely didn't belong. What's interesting, and I'm just going to get this tweet. I believe I sent it to you a little earlier today. Michael Tenier? Michael Silver has a thread. I'll just read a few of this. The Urban Meyer situation in Jacksonville has reached a crisis point, especially in the locker room. One player told me, quote, he has zero credibility in that stadium. He had very little to begin with. And then players were particularly put off by the fact that Meyer canceled Monday's team meeting as he dealt with the uproar over the videos of him and a young woman getting cozy in the bar. Quote, he even canceled the meeting. He was too scared. And he said he only apologized to position groups individually. He portrayed the woman in the videos as a random person who was just there dancing. Suffice to say, the audience was highly skeptical. And another player said, we looked at him like, WTF? Right when he left, everyone started dying laughing, and he knew it. It's bad. I don't know how he's going to function. Urban Meyer, 0-4 in his first year with that huge deal with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Shad Khan, the owner today, said that it was unacceptable behavior. And this is an absolute mess. And maybe those rumors of Urban taking off and going to take that job at USC that was vacated a couple weeks ago, a little more legs today as he's trying to get as far away both from Ohio where it happened and maybe Jacksonville as well. I'm not sure that he even lasts the year, to be honest.
Yeah, and I was thinking, him getting cozy with a woman who's not his wife at a bar. I mean, maybe not the worst thing, but it's, first of all, there's a long list of things that Urban Meyer has done. Like, I don't know, not going home with the team after a game, not going on the team plane.
Pat McAfee talked about that yesterday. He goes, I've never heard a NFL coach do that before. I mean, it's a mess right now. And they need to figure this out because you can't waste, a couple years of Trevor Lawrence getting his feet wet in the National Football League as your franchise player with a guy that's not going to be around, that's heart's not in it, or that's not capable of commanding the respect in an NFL locker room that, you know, your head coach needs to do. And apparently that ain't happening right now with Urban Meyer. So anyways, the trials and tribulations of Herb will be followed on this program. Not as closely, though, as your Jets, your Bombers, and all of your local teams. Big thanks to Kevin O today for coming on. It was great to chat with him today. Don't forget, he and Brian Munns will have the calls of all the Ice games on 1290 this season. Tomorrow night, their broadcast begins at 6:30. Of course, the Jets going on, and everyone still talking about the turmoil around the Bombers involving Kenny Lawler. You go to bluebombers.com, as Ed Tate said, a full story coming up. And I know Jeff Hamilton, who was on the program yesterday, has been all over it as well. Hey, big thanks to all of our sponsors. Our newest, Culligan Water. Great to have you on board. See them over at 1200 Sargent. Manitoba Battery on Logan Avenue, getting you charged up for the winter. You can check them at manitobabattery.com. Royal Sports, at Royal Sports Pembina on Instagram. The Superstore is at 750 Pembina Highway. Princess Auto, shop 24 hours at princessauto.com. Our friends at Little Brown Jug, make sure their Instagram right now, their story, now that it's back online, lots of good stuff on the return of the Black Label beer, as well as an event going on at the taproom this weekend. Our friends at Boston Pizza, Not Auto Corp, Canadian Club, and our friends at DQ, Nick and Nicky DQ with 4 locations. It's blizzard weather. Get out for that. And of course, Coolbet Canada. We'll get ready for Jets Flames tomorrow night. The latest on the Bombers as they prepare for the Edmonton Elks. A look ahead to Week 5 in the National Football League and much more on tomorrow's Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Thanks to Michael Remis, and thanks to all of you in the chat for joining us live on YouTube, and everybody listening on podcast. Have a great night tonight, folks, and we'll see you tomorrow on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.